Welcome back to the Still You podcast. This is the space where we are untangling who you learn to be in order to be loved to who you actually are underneath all of that effort. Today we're talking about the Enneagram Type Two, often called the helper, the giver, the caretaker. Honestly, just pick one. And if you are a 2, I want to start by saying this clearly. You are not too much, you're not needy, you're not manipulative, and you are not wrong for wanting connection. But somewhere along the way, you may have learned a particularly difficult and devastating lesson. Love comes when I'm useful. Does that sound a little too familiar? Today, we're exploring the childhood wound of the Type 2, how it formed, how it shows up in adult relationships and your life today, and how healing doesn't mean loving less. It means finally including yourself in the love that you give oh so freely. I am so excited for this episode because 2s do have a little special place in my heart, and I found out when I was learning about the Enneagram way back when, and I saw how many 2s I naturally surrounded myself with. So I'm honestly not trying to play favorites here at all. I love all of you guys, but the healthy 2 represents a Type 8 on the inside, despite outward appearances, and you know what I'm talking about. But as always, this is not about me, but it still does go to show how dynamic all of this is and how every type helps every type, and we can all learn something from someone, okay? Anyway, before we dive in, you know the drill. Do me a favor, like, subscribe, rate, or review. Every little tidbit counts toward the goals here, so I really appreciate it. All right, let's start where it all began, the beginning. If there's one sentence I'd put on the dating or LinkedIn profile for the Type 2, it would be this. I did it for the Type 1, I thought it was cute. So for my 2s, it would be, I learned to be what others needed. I maybe don't put that on your LinkedIn profile. That's a rabbit hole. Anyway, during childhood, 2s tend to internalize 3 powerful beliefs. First, that other people's needs must come before their own. Second, that giving is the price of receiving. And third, that love is not automatically theirs. It has to be earned. Somewhere early on, they absorb the message that simply existing is not enough to secure love and affection, so they adapt like children do. They begin to believe that the safest way to be loved is to minimize their own needs and prioritize everybody else's. Attention, praise, comfort, these become things they offer generously to others, hoping that in doing so, they too will be chosen, valued, appreciated, loved, etc. Type 2 children are often deeply emotionally perceptive. If this was you or sounds like your kid, I want to hear about it. But they notice moods, they feel shifts in energy, they sense when someone is overwhelmed, sad, or distant, or just in need. Yeah, we're talking about empaths here, which are not exclusive to the Type 2s, but I would not be surprised if it was, honestly. But instead of having their emotional needs mirrored and met, many 2s learned something super powerful early on, that my needs take up too much space, other people's needs matter more, or I'm safest when I'm helpful. Now, this does not always come from obvious neglect or harm. Childhood wounds for any type don't just mean obvious, overt trauma, right? It often, for the 2s though, it can often come from emotionally overwhelmed caregivers or parents who leaned on the child for support, families where love was expressed through doing, not just being, and praise that came when the child was kind, mature, or selfless in some way. And if this, again, sounds like your experience so far, please DM me. I'm so curious. So again, the child adapts naturally. Instead of asking, they anticipate. Instead of needing, they give. Instead of expressing hurt, they just show up smiling like nothing is wrong. And slowly, unconsciously, the belief forms, if I make myself indispensable, I won't be abandoned. Oh my God, I just want to give you guys a little hug. Ah! But in more dysfunctional environments, this conditioning becomes even stronger. Acknowledging personal needs may have been labeled selfish, dramatic, or burdensome in some way. And so that the child's inner moral compass, their superego, absorbs the rule of needing is not allowed. And so twos learn to operate within their family systems and then later on in friendships and romantic relationships as the helper, the attentive one, the selfless friend, supporter, the mom of the group or of a man-child maybe. But many established this role early on by caring for younger siblings, managing household responsibilities way too young, or even emotionally tending to a parent, which I could not. Oh, geez. But they discover that by being indispensable, by sacrificing their own comfort, they're rewarded with whatever, passes for love in their particular environment. So here's the wound at the core of the type 2. They become emotionally attuned before they were emotionally supported. Does that make sense? I don't know. They learned how to read others before anyone taught them how to listen to themselves and their own needs. So their attention turned outward constantly. What do you need? What can I help with? How can I be there for you? But the question they stopped asking was, what do I need right now? And this is a good segue into our little reflection prompt or a journal exercise or just something to think about for the rest of the day. And I will try to put this in the show notes if I remember, or you could just rewind. Honestly, just rewind if you need to hear this again, okay? But if you're a type 2 or think you're 2, ask yourself these questions. Long pause. When I was a child, who needed me? What did I learn about asking for help? When I needed comfort, what happened? And lastly, what did I do to feel close to others? All right, give that a think, write it down, ponder, So moving on, how does the wound shape the type 2 personality, which basically is love became a transaction without meaning to. So in adulthood, this wound often shows up as relational overfunctioning. Type 2s don't just love, they invest, which I love, but they give time, energy, labor, emotional labor, care, support. I could keep going. But here's what 2s often don't want to admit or can't admit maybe. They hope that love will be returned. However, I'm not talking about in a manipulative way, but in a deeply human, unconscious way, right? We all can relate to that in some way. We all have been conditioned with the, tit for tat mentality. So it's not necessarily wrong to hope for something in return. But for 2s, it goes so much deeper. It's much more devastating for them. So what happens when love isn't returned? Sorry. So what happens when love isn't returned? A non-type 2 could be, think about it for yourself if you're not a type 2, but you could be just disappointed. Maybe you're sad and move on from it, But inside the mind of a type 2, girl, they're thinking, I didn't give enough. I asked for too much. I should try harder. So to fully embody the role of the nurturer and to preserve the positive identity that comes with being, quote, the caring one, 2s begin to repress their own unmet needs, wounds, and insecurity. And over time, this repression deepens even more. Do you kind of see here how easily this turns into this toxic relationship with themselves? Which, depending on your type, that childhood wound kind of does that for everybody. But the type 2, they lose touch with their own inner signals for care and instead become exquisitely attuned to the pain in others. Remember in the deep dive episode of the type 2 that we did several episodes back? Go back and listen to it, obviously. But as an example, where they have these antennas that are highly attuned and sensitive to the emotions of others, except for their own. Okay, almost automatically, they move toward whoever is hurting. And on a deeper psychological level, they're often attempting to soothe in others the very pain and hurt they struggle to acknowledge within themselves. Oh, guys, you guys. So literally, have you ever wondered why you keep picking the same type of romantic relationships or friendships? This is why. Okay. But given this inner dynamic, 2s cope with difficult emotions by redirecting their attention outward. When they feel lonely, anxious, or unappreciated, and Lord, unappreciated, they double down on helping. They try harder. They give more. Yet the more unstable or rejecting their early environment, their childhood was, the more they may anticipate abandonment. Even if it never happens, they're anticipating it. It's gonna happen, which is not, guys, it's not going to happen, I promise. But that anticipation can quietly turn into urgency, a deep drive to secure reassurance at any cost. And in its most extreme, keyword, form, the two may exhaust themselves seeking proof of love, looking for even the smallest, teeny tiniest sign, gesture, or wound that confirms that they matter and won't be pushed away. So breaking it down a little bit more on how it shows up in adult life. In your relationships, it can look like difficulty expressing your needs directly, giving with the hope of being chosen, resentment when care isn't reciprocated, feeling unappreciated or invisible, and or fear of being unwanted without usefulness. In friendships, it can look like being that therapist friend or the mom friend, always bringing the little snacks on the boat, making sure everybody has their sunscreen on. This is so cute. We all need you. But you're always checking in and then rarely being checked on, feeling hurt when others don't show up the same way, and then struggling to receive help without the guilt. That's a big one. Internally, though, it could look like confusion about your own personal needs and desires, shame around needing support or help, and then emotional exhaustion, and also this quiet fear of being unlovable if you stop giving and helping so much. The tragedy here is this. Type 2s are often deeply loved, but don't always feel loved because love that isn't earned feels unfamiliar. Oh, guys. Oh, I wish I could hug all of you. I wish I could hug every person's childhood wound, right? I mean, come on. All right. Now it's time for your homework, my little minions. Let me know how these go for you so I can give you a little A for effort, okay? First off, name your needs out loud, okay? This is radical for 2s and probably the one that will be the hardest, especially at first. It will get easier, I promise you, but it will be something you will likely have to remind yourself to do for quite some time before it becomes second nature. But start with things like, if you have a partner or a friend, somebody that you trust, start with saying, I need rest. I need reassurance about XYZ, or I need help with blah, blah, blah. I need space right now, or I just need to be held. Those are just some examples, which you can definitely just start with those, and it will start to click for you over time. But remember, your needs are not burdens. They are invitations for connection. And a great place to start is when someone is asking you for something or you're about to do something for someone, right? This does not mean you back out on your word or leave someone hanging. We love a committed and reliable queen, okay, with integrity. But stop yourself in these moments and think to yourself, should I have said no to this instead? Why did I say yes? Can I ask for help with this task so I can honor my commitment but lessen the burden? The more you ask these things of yourself, the easier you can nip it in the bud before you say yes to something. This isn't just about doing favors for others either. If you are an overwhelmed mom, how can you ask for help? I promise you, I'm one of these people. I promise you there's at least one person waiting, begging you to reach out so that they can show up for you. It will take time and practice to ask for help and to find the right people, but please stay the course. Please, please, please. Next, practice without overgiving. So before helping, ask yourself, am I giving freely or hoping to be needed? If there's a hidden hope, pause, stop, not to shame yourself, but to check in. Sometimes the most loving act is not rescuing again, right? This will take time and practice as you get to know this part of yourself. Next step, next homework, however you want to look at it. Learn to receive without earning. Similar to the first one, but let someone help you. Let someone care. Let someone show up without you doing anything first. And right now, throw out the expectations, put them in the trash of how you'd want someone to help or support you. It's likely it won't be in the way you'd daydream about, but what's important here that you need to remember is that they are helping you, they are supporting, and they are showing up for you. Don't lose sight of that. And notice that discomfort. That discomfort is grief. Grief for the version of you who didn't get care unless they deserved it. Soak in that discomfort for literal minutes. That's how you know all of this is working and you're on the right path toward healing. Okay, last thing, I think. Reparent the inner child. This is homework for every human, so don't skip it. But for my twos, say the words you needed to hear. Like, you don't have to perform for love. You are wanted, not just needed. You can ask for help. You don't have to disappear in order to belong. All right, to wrap this up, my gorgeous type twos, you were never meant to earn your place in people's lives, okay? You were never meant to trade yourself in for connection. You were never meant to disappear inside of love, your love and generosity. Healing doesn't mean loving less. It means letting yourself be loved fully, freely, without condition. You are not here just to give love. You are here to receive it too, okay? If you enjoyed this episode, please comment wherever you are at and leave a little extra love with the reviews and follows, and also share to the person who you feel also needs to hear this. Until next time, stay with yourself. Love you. Bye.